Hi, my name is Sue, and today I'll be bringing you my July wrap-up. I'm going to get through this fairly quickly because I'm in the middle of a readathon right now, so I don't want to spend a lot of time filming this part. But to begin with, for the month of July, I listened to an audiobook entitled Rose Under Fire by Elizabeth Wayne. This is the second book in the Codename Verity series, although there are different characters within this story. Here we're dealing with a woman named Rose Justice. She's a transport pilot working for the American ATA, kind of ferrying planes back and forth between Paris and England. When she is sort of forced to land in Nazi territory, and she is captured and then brought to a women's concentration camp. There she befriends a group of women called the Rabbits. They are women that have been experimented on by Nazi doctors, horrifically experimented on, and together she and these other women and some of the other members of the camp are, just basically struggling to survive. That's their day-to-day struggles within this book, and it's very well written. Some pretty brutal descriptions of the things they go through, but it definitely depicted true events that took place in these particular camps. So I thought it was very well written. Overall, I gave that one 4 stars. Moving on to some manga, I picked up the Limit series. This is by Keiko Suenobu. I have the first 5 volumes here. This is volume 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I read all 5 of these in the month of July, only to discover that it didn't end. There's one more volume. So I couldn't complete the whole entire thing, and I couldn't get a hold of a volume 6 yet, so I couldn't read it within the month. But overall, I thought it was a fairly decent series, sort of a Lord of the Flies type tale. We have a students, kind of a school trip. They're going to some kind of camp or something out in through the woods, and the bus that this group of girls are on ends up crashing into a deep ravine. Everybody dies, it seems like, except for 5 girls, and what we end up with the situation is sort of like Lord of the Flies, where it's sort of like survival of the fittest. There we have Mizuki. She's sort of the more popular girl, always in with the popular girl group and everything. She's pretty smart. We also have, I forget all these names here, Cheiko. She seems to know a lot about survival. Like, she's done a lot of reading and things like that. She seems to be the genius of the group. Then we have Morishige. She is the one that's been bullied all this time, and always left out of groups and everything like that. And then we have Haru. And then this is, and she's actually was a friend of this girl, but apparently she's always harbored some animosity and jealousy towards this one, which she doesn't find out until they're in this particular situation. And then we have our last member here, which is Haruaki. You find out more about him as the story goes. I don't want to give any spoilers. But anyway, I forgot why exactly, but there is a sickle, this thing that she is wielding right here, on board the bus. And one of the teachers brought along for something. I forgot exactly what it's for, but she gets a hold of it. She ends up using it as a weapon, kind of taking control of the group and creating a whole new caste system where, guess who's in charge? She is. It can get pretty brutal as the story goes along. Of course, there's the struggle to survive, get food. There's no way, it seems like, to get out of this particular ravine. And the school administrators don't even know that this bus is missing at the very beginning. They think it's reached its destination because of some miscommunication. So there are some tense moments in here, but I think the fact that there's so limited a number of characters, it kind of reduced the number of, just the amount of tension, I guess, within it. So overall, I gave most of these 3 stars, except for volume 4, which I gave 4 stars, because there's an excellent cliffhanger at the end of this that goes into this particular volume. I don't know how it'll all wrap up yet until I get volume 6. The next series I read was No Longer Human. This is a 3-part series by Usamaru Furuya, and it is based on the novel by Osamu Dazai. And the illustrator, Usamaru, actually is in the pages of the book. He included himself in there. There he is in the beginning. He appears in the first couple of pages of each book. And he's online researching his next idea for a next manga of some sort, and when he stumbles upon an online diary of this guy here, Yoza Oba. And he's very shocked by some of the images that he sees online. At the age of 17, he looks like this. By 25, he looks like this. And he can't imagine what was so bad in this guy's life that turned him, into this. Basically a lifeless human. And we come to kind of learn his story as we go through the books. These books are definitely for mature readers only. And there are all sorts of triggers between rape and suicide, drug abuse, possible child abuse. He's gone through quite a bit. He seems to not seem to understand people. He feels outside of society. He's always tries to be popular by being the class clown, by never appearing too bright so that people are jealous of him, or too strong, or too anything. It's always middle class road, always joking around, the class clown. He also does illustrations. He's hoping that will, be something he could do as a career. But anytime something good seems to go in his life, it ends up going bad. And I think there's depression here as well. He's just sort of outside of society. He ends up, basically, it seems like women seem to feel sorry for him, and then they bring him into his lives, uses sex and things like that to kind of get what he needs to kind of continue with his life. And even if he does find happiness with any of these relationships, like I said, things eventually go wrong, but basically because of the way he just does not know how to deal with society. So it's a pretty intense series, very well illustrated, but definitely, like I said, for mature readers. I gave the first 2 5 stars, and then the last one 4 stars. The next book I read was The Gardener by S.A. Bodine. This is a YA, kind of sci-fi-ish type book about a boy named Mason. He wants to go to a place called Troden Industries for a summer program. They deal with things like environmental sustainability projects, things like that, but he's hoping to get a scholarship to go to college by attending this program. His mom wants nothing to do with this place. He wants him to steer clear of it, even though this particular Troden Industries seems to own most of the town, including the nursing home where his mom works. Now, Mason doesn't really know his father. All he's ever seen of him is a DVD where he is reading a children's story, The Runaway Bunny. And he was given this DVD of his father when he was very young by his mom. She didn't want to share it with him or anything, but he got seriously injured in like a dog attack or something, and she kind of gave it to him to like help calm him down, and he could watch it. And he's been watching it ever since. Every once in a while he plays it, but he doesn't know what his father looks like because all he sees is like this image as he's reading the story. He just has like just the torso. But anyway, one day he goes to the nursing home where his mom is looking after these comatose patients. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and they're all like fairly young, like in their 20s. They're all the same age. And he's waiting to confront her about the application for Troden Industries. And while she leaves for a little bit, he ends up playing the DVD, and something in the DVD triggers one of the patients to wake up. And she starts talking very strangely, mentioning things about the gardener, and she's terrified. And before you know it, the 2 of them escape the nursing home and are on the run. Now, this book is mostly this whole chase sequence where these 2 are on the run from people that are trying to bring this woman back. And what we come to find out, as it's described in the description here, he isn't supposed to meet this beautiful girl who's part of an experiment, who doesn't need food or water to survive. He's on the run with the girl. The gardener is a mysterious mastermind in an institution that grows humans and wants them both dead or alive. So it's a big chase scene. It's fairly well written. The characters are kind of interesting, but got a bit repetitive, and it wasn't too hard to figure out who the gardener was going to end up being. No big surprises. A couple surprises at the very end, but that part wasn't too big of a mystery. Overall, I just gave it 3 stars. Then I read Harper Lee's Go Set a Watchman. For those of you who have watched my channel, you know To Kill a Mockingbird is like my all-time favorite story. I love the voice of Scout, telling the story of her growing up with her brother Jem and their friend Dill, and the adventures, it's kind of spying on Boo Radley, the mysterious man who lives a sheltered life down the street in a creepy house. And then, of course, Atticus Finch, their father, sort of the hero of the story, you might say, defending a black man falsely accused of raping a white woman in the Deep South. Now, this particular book, I'm sure you've heard all the controversy about it. It was apparently written first. The author's editor kind of convinced her to revisit the story and retell it from Scout's point of view. So this book kind of sat forgotten somewhere until someone happened to find it not too long ago. And whether the author ever really would have wanted this to be released or not. We don't really know. There's some controversy about that, of course. That kind of made me hesitant to read it, but having been so wanting to read something else by this author for so long, I decided to go ahead and pick it up. But there's also the other controversy of the Atticus Finch we knew, Scout's father, who's sort of been placed up on a pedestal not only by Scout herself, but all the readers who've read To Kill a Mockingbird. We're going to find out some surprises within this book. Now, she ends up, she basically, Scout, or Jean Louise Finch as we know her in this book, revisits every year, goes back home and meets with her father and stuff, and one particular visit, and this one here, she sees him at a meeting where they're attended by a Ku Klux Klan member. She's absolutely shocked that he would be there, that he'd be listening to what this person said, and that's sort of the premise of the story. She's come, like, different revelations, seeing the place she grew up in from an adult person's perspective. I think I'll probably have to reread this because the explanation father gives and things like that, I found kind of difficult to understand. But my favorite parts, I'd say, of the book are the parts where she is reminiscing about her childhood. So you're basically revisiting that same voice of Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird. Sadly, Jem is not present other than in those flashbacks within this book because he has already passed away from a sudden heart attack, similar to the same heart condition that their mother suffered, because she died shortly after Scott was born. Also missing from the book is Dill, their childhood friend. He has moved away, and he's again only mentioned through the flashbacks. We do have another character by the name of Henry, who is apparently a very close friend of Scout's growing up. They lived across the street from each other. They were inseparable, yada, yada, yada. The thing is, he's never mentioned in To Kill a Mockingbird, so I found it very hard to associate with this character at all, or his feelings for Jean Louise. He just seemed like an odd character. I couldn't connect with him at all. Overall, I mean, the writing is still magical. I did take a little bit of time getting into it because it starts going into a bit of the the history of the area and everything, and that was a little bit droll. But once you start getting into the main characters and those characters we're familiar with from To Kill a Mockingbird are back and things like that, I did enjoy it. But overall, I gave this one 4 stars. The final book I read and finished slightly into August, but I read a majority of it within like the last week of July, is The Dead House by Dawn Kurtikich. I will not go into a whole bunch of detail about this because I did do a full review. I'm going to put a link down below. I highly recommend you check this out. Excuse me. It is already released in the UK. This is the UK cover. This is just an advanced copy though. It came out August 6th, and it's coming out September 15th in the US. And it's a YA horror psychological thriller that you don't want to miss. You definitely need to pick this one up. Check out the review below. I give this one 5 stars, my favorite read of the month. That's my wrap up for July. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.